My father spent 40 years giving the bare minimum, so I stopped giving anything at all. Growing up, I watched my mother pour herself into every family milestone. She remembered the names of our teachers, our friends, the exact song playing when something important happened. She remembered everything. My father showed up, physically, but that was the extent of it. He was present the way furniture is present. When he retired, he moved closer to me. I was the only child within driving distance, and somehow that translated into expectation. Weekly dinners, airport pickups, the assumption that I would be the one to fill his calendar now that work no longer did it for him. I told myself it was fine. He was aging. He was alone. I would be a good daughter. For 3 years, I organized his life with the same quiet thoroughness my mother once had. I tracked his medication refills, booked his doctor appointments, reminded him about the grandkids' birthdays and school events. I planned his 75th birthday dinner, reserved a private room at his favorite restaurant, flew in my brother from Portland. My father sat at the head of the table looking comfortable and unsurprised, like it had simply materialized around him. He never asked about my life. Not once. Not about my job change. Not about the miscarriage. Not about the months my marriage nearly collapsed under the weight of grief I was carrying alone. I told him these things anyway. Across dinners, he spent mostly scrolling through sports scores on his phone. He would nod, say something like, "That sounds rough," and pivot to telling me about a neighborhood dispute involving someone I'd never met. I kept showing up. I kept organizing. I told myself connection would come eventually, that this was just how he communicated, that he showed love differently. Then last Thanksgiving, I mentioned I'd been promoted. Regional director, something I'd worked toward for 6 years. He looked up briefly and said, "Good. Hey, can you make sure my flight home is confirmed? I think I gave you my login." I drove home that night and sat in my driveway for a long time. I didn't make a scene. I didn't send a letter or make demands. I just quietly stopped. I stopped organizing his prescriptions, stopped pre-booking his appointments. When he texted asking me to confirm a flight, I replied that I wasn't sure how, but that Google was helpful. When he called to ask what he should get my daughter for her birthday, I said I trusted his judgment. There was a long pause on the line before he said he'd figure it out. He didn't figure it out. He sent her a gift card for a store that closed 2 years ago. For 6 months, I watched what happened when I simply became someone he had to consider rather than someone who anticipated his every need. Calls became less frequent. Visits stopped being assumed. He seemed genuinely confused, like a routine had broken down without explanation. Then in February, he called on a Tuesday night. He asked if everything was okay. I said yes, just busy. He was quiet for a moment and then said, "I feel like I've done something wrong and I don't know what it is." I thought about letting it pass, saying nothing, but I was tired of saying nothing. I told him calmly that I had spent years managing the details of his daily life, while he had never once asked about mine with any real curiosity. I told him about the promotion he'd dismissed. I told him I'd had a miscarriage 2 years ago, and he still didn't know because every time I'd started to tell him, he redirected the conversation. I didn't cry. I wasn't angry. I just said it all plainly, the way you read a list aloud. He was silent for so long, I thought the call had dropped. Then he said, "I didn't know about the pregnancy." His voice was different, smaller. "I know," I said. He asked if he could take me to lunch. Just us, no agenda. I said yes. He showed up with a card. Inside, he'd written 3 sentences acknowledging 3 specific things I'd told him. It wasn't eloquent, but it was specific, and specific meant he'd actually listened. We're not fixed. It doesn't work that way. But he calls now and asks questions he waits to hear the answer to. That's new. That's something. Sometimes people only learn what they've been taking when it's no longer there waiting for them.